Hey, welcome back to the show. Of course, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for more episodes of Right on the Money. That's where we discuss financial topics with advisors and fiduciaries right there in your area. Now, today, our guest, Erik Bowman, owner of Bowman Financial Strategies. We're coming into our last segment, Erik, and we're going to talk about some retirement tax strategies the IRS doesn't want you to know about. And we're here today because of your book, The Retirement Tax Revolution, which is an awesome book. Where does one get this book?
Amazon, on our website. We also at our events that we do if you're local out in the Denver area. So a lot of different ways to get hold of it.
Okay, awesome. All right, so in the book, I want to dive back in. You use something called the yield sign trick to explain how people how we all hold on to these outdated ideas. How does this relate to tax planning for retirement?
So for years, when I would do public presentations, I would show the yellow yield sign. Mm-hmm. And I would ask, before I even showed that, I would say, what color is a yield sign? And everybody would say yellow. And then I'd pull up a yellow sign. I go, look at that, a yellow yield sign. Then I pull up the red yield sign that's been around since 1972 when we decided we were going to follow the International Road Sign Convention colors and changed it to red. And really what it proves is when you initially learn something, like learning how to drive, and yield signs were yellow at that time, that you're going to have a tendency to think that's the way it is. And that even though you've been driving by red yield signs for the last 30 years, your brain still goes back to what you originally learned. And when it comes to taxation, whatever you might have learned 20 years ago or even thought 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the one thing we have to know is tax law and taxation changes every single year. Your taxes are not going to be the same for the next 30 years of retirement as what they are today in 2025.
Now, speaking of that, the great segue, there's a lot of uncertainty now about future tax law.
Right.
We just had an election, especially right now as we're filming this, the 2017 tax cuts are set to expire soon. So what should a retiree be doing right now to prepare for those potential tax changes?
Be aggressive. There's time sensitivity to your decisions. Think about this. We have a 1-year guarantee that the current TCJA, that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, is going to remain in effect. It has a sunset provision, so January 1, 2026, the current tax brackets that you enjoy right now, and trust me, they are very good for the average person. And the standard deduction that goes along with that disappears. And it goes back to the old administration, which means standard deduction gets cut in half, tax brackets, you move through them more quickly, and there will be, in essence, more taxes to pay with the same income. So we have a 1-year guarantee of the remaining, really 10 months as we present today. 2-year high probability that it's going to stay in force, because if they extend it, we have to remember we have 2-year election cycles, not 4-year election cycles. So if they do extend it, it's probably good until the next midterm election, but depending who wins the House of Representatives or the Senate, that could change. They can change existing law. And I'd say I have a bias that we would probably keep the extension for the next 4 years. But you can see as we look out farther in time, my confidence that our taxes are more predictable lessens. So that means if you want to do something, for example, like Roth conversions, the lowest hanging fruit for many people, you want to do those as quickly and as rapidly as possible within reason. You don't want to overpay taxes, but you want to buy the government out of your retirement plan. And one way to do that is to pay them taxes via the Roth conversion, get them out of your retirement planning for good, for at least those monies that are converted over to the Roth. And now you have a bucket of money that can grow tax-free into the future. And you want to do that while the tax brackets are in your favor.
Well, with that being said, one of the biggest surprises for retirees is how much tax their heirs have to pay.
Right.
Or may have to pay on retirement accounts when they pass. So what should people be doing now, or can they do anything to protect their legacy?
Sure. Many of the strategies that a retiree would put in place, Roth conversions, once again, so easy to talk about and so seldom utilized, quite frankly, positions your assets for more efficient transfer for the next generation. Because IRA money, to contrast to Roth money, when it's given to a non-spouse under current law, they have to deplete that account in 10 years, which means a faster time frame, taking more money out more quickly that's fully taxable on top of their current employment income. And if they're, dual income household, then they have to take out meaningful IRA distributions from something they inherited from their parents, they're going to find themselves potentially paying extremely high marginal tax bracket payments on those distributions from the IRA. By contrast, if you leave a Roth IRA to a child, they pay no taxes on the distribution. They still have to take it out over a 10-year period because I think the government wants that money socialized out into the economy, put into other types of accounts that could be taxable down the road, but there's no tax on that. So that's one example of a strategy that can be put in place now that helps the retiree, but also helps the next generation.
These strategies are so complex that they must have to be tailored to the individual, right?
Well, we use software. We use a lot of software so we can understand based on the client's actual income streams. Some people have rental income. Some people are still working part-time. Sure. They have IRA distributions, Roth conversions, may or may not have Social Security, potentially a pension. There's so many income sources, and we need to know whether they're active or not active, what the taxability is, and then start to experiment with our prospective software that looks into the future and say, what if we did Roth conversions with your current income streams? What does that tax burden look like? How do you pay the taxes? And from where is that money going to come from to pay the tax bill?
With all these moving parts with taxes, what would you think? What would you say? I'll put you on the spot. Biggest tax myth retirees have that's actually costing them?
I think that they believe taxes are going to be the same way forever, that how they are today is how they're going to be. They just need to go back a couple of years to realize that one of the most dramatic changes in tax law happened in 2017, let alone even if they never changed the law, every single year taxes change because tax brackets change through a process called indexing, which is government formulas preordained in current law that calculate future changes to current tax law, and that's without passing any new legislation at all. So that's one thing. And you only have to go back so far to remember there was a time when Social Security wasn't taxed at all. Yeah. Then it was taxed at 50%. Then it was taxed at potentially up to 85%, which is where we sit now. Is it going to be like that forever? Could they tax all of our Social Security or maybe not tax our Social Security at all? Totally depends on the political winds. And in my estimation, people who are not at the whim of legislative risk are better off. Yeah. And you want to take proactive control over your assets, how you utilize them, and how you prep the playing field from a tax perspective going into retirement so you have control and it's not the government controlling every aspect of your tax bill.
There is no better way. That was a perfect segue into my last question for you, which is if you're watching and you want a copy, and I will actually say you need a copy of the book, right? So, or they want personalized advice.
Right.
How do they get a hold of you? How do they get a copy of this book? How?
We're all over the internet. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, our website, bowmanfinancialstrategies.com. We have a nice booking page where you can schedule time with me, where we can listen to what your concerns are on our very brief call, understand if I can help, and if I can help, what the next steps would look like to engage any further. And the book's also available on Amazon and our website.
I love it. Erik, thank you for being here. So folks, listen, taxes in retirement, they can be controlled, but only if you plan ahead, only if you work with someone like Erik. And if you want to learn how to get and keep more of your hard-earned money, you need a copy of this book. Don't forget, you can watch full Right on the Money Show episodes on our official YouTube channel or at rightonthemoneyshow.com. That is a spot where you can get up-to-date financial news and insights from the top insurance and financial professionals in your area. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.